If you have a Bible with maps in the back, I would like you to look at a map of Israel that looks like this.
One on that side,
Got another name for
Okay.
it. I got Nebepian Kingdom.
got something like that.
Doesn't matter. I'm just going to look at the geography. So
Are we
it doesn't
good?
matter.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what time period you are. If you look at a map of Israel, doesn't matter what time period, you will notice on the western side of Israel, there is a big blue area. What is that big blue area?
Mediterranean Sea.
The Mediterranean Sea. Everybody see that, right?
Mhm.
If you look on the east side of Israel, you will see a blue line with two little blue dots.
You remember?
That blue line is the Jordan River. There are two unequal halves of the Jordan River. There is the upper Jordan River. It flows from Mount Hermon. If you look at the very top of your map, there should be one that says Mount Hermon. Do you see Mount Hermon there?
Mhm.
That's where the Jordan River begins. It then flows down to the first smaller of the two blue dots. What is the smaller
Sea of
of the two
Galilee.
blue dots?
Sea of Galilee.
That is really low, Paul. The volume. The Sea of Galilee. Then you have the lower Jordan. It flows on down through beside ancient Israel, about 80 miles to the bigger of the two blue dots, which is
Dead Sea.
the Dead Sea. Now, I want you to tell me what you know about the smaller of the two blue dots, the Sea of Galilee.
It's where Jesus walked on the water.
All right. What do you know about the Sea of Galilee itself?
It storms on it. a lot.
It has storms. What else?
It has an in and an out
Very
and
full of
plenty of
fish.
fish.
It has fish.
A lot of fish.
How do we know that it had fish?
All fishermen.
Because many of Jesus' disciples were fishermen, and there were many other fishermen. In fact, during Jesus' life, there may have been as many as 5,000 fishing boats on the Sea of Galilee. In fact, today there are still 6 commercial fishing fleets that fish the Sea of Galilee, despite the fact that it is a very small lake.
Wow, the Dead Sea is much larger.
Much larger, smaller than actually the picture there. The Dead Sea today is about half the size of the one in your Bible because it is shrinking, because they are diverting so much water to growing food that it is evaporating down. What do you know about the larger of the two blue dots?
Dead Seas, there's so much salt in it that nothing can live in it, supposedly.
There is zero life in the Dead Sea. In
That's probably why they
fact,
call it Dead Sea.
it is the most organically dead place on earth. There is almost nowhere else on earth that is as dead as the Dead Sea. Not the bottom of the ocean, not mountaintops. It is utterly hostile to life. There is not even any bacteria, any viruses, any single-celled organisms living in the Dead Sea. Were I to bring in, and I don't have a water glass, but if I were to bring in something about half this large with Dead Sea water, and were you to drink it, you would be just as dead as the Dead Sea. About 6 ounces of Dead Sea water would kill a normal human adult.
Oh, but the
People
mud's
swim in
very
that, all right?
healthy.
I'm sorry?
People swim in there, don't they?
I have swum in it 3 times,
That mud's very healthy.
As long
Is
as
it
you don't
true
get
that
it
you
in your
float?
body.
but you cannot swim in it. You float in it. And if you try to put your face into it, they will remove you and ban you for the rest of your life from ever going into it. If you were to put your face into it, you would go blind almost immediately if you get it in your eyes. If you were to get it in your mouth, you would be very, very ill or could die. So you simply lay in it and float, or you stand in it. It is very good for your skin, but internally it is very, very bad for you. Now here's the problem. What water flows into the Sea of Galilee?
The Jordan,
What water flows into the Dead Sea?
Jordan.
Jordan.
Why is one living and one dead?
Elevation.
Here is what happens so often when a person has an encounter with Christ that either for the first time or for a subsequent time brings them to a new state of, you can call it revival or awareness or some desire to grow in Christ that they haven't been experiencing either ever or for a while. When that happens, what is your spiritual state when you come to a new awakening in Christ?
Flowing into the river.
Are you comparing it to a bucket?
Is there a big?
So
He's getting an example.
what is your state when you come to a fresh encounter with Christ?
You're filled up, overflowing.
You are empty.
Empty.
Oh,
Nothing in you. What happens when you come to that place?
You get filled up.
You begin to be being filled up. I don't know how many times I've seen this. Maybe you have too. Somebody comes in, they're all excited, they're growing, things are going great. And then after a couple of months, they stop growing. They become flat. Pretty soon they're out the door and going someplace else. And maybe when they get there, they have another experience like that. Maybe a few months, maybe a few weeks, maybe even a few years or decades later. And the same thing happens again. And there are many people that have had this happen to them 5, 6, 8, 10 times. And it repeats and repeats and repeats and repeats. And here's why. When you begin to be filled up, how much can I fill up this cup?
To the brim.
Looks to be a 4-ounce cup, give or take. I can put 4 ounces in it. Once I hit 4 ounces, what happens?
Overflows.
It won't hold anymore. Now it's full. I have filled this to the brim. Now, here it sits. I could go in there and waste one. There are 4 or 5 fresh water bottles, sealed water bottles. If I were to fill this up with one of those, what would be in it?
water.
Nice, pure, clean, filtered water, right? Anybody here willing to drink that?
Sure.
Sure. If I sit it here for a week, what do I have?
Yeah.
How about a month?
It's gonna evaporate in a month.
Whatever's left in it, what will it be like?
Dirty.
Well, it'd be
It'll
covered
be-
in dust and a lot of other stuff too.
Yeah. It'll become stagnant and then it'll become, if there's any bacteria in it whatsoever, that bacteria will start to grow. After a few months, anybody willing to drink that?
No.
That's exactly what happens spiritually. That's why the Dead Sea is dead. It gets poured into, but nothing ever comes out of it, only through evaporation. And in order for you to have an ongoing spiritual life, you have to have an inflow of truth and you have to have an outflow of truth. You have to be a conduit, not a cup.
Meaning you have to be giving the gospel or, yeah.
You have to be taking in the gospel and you have to be giving it out. If you are not taking in and you are giving out, what will happen to you?
It'll dry up.
You will become barren. If you are not taking in, but are giving out, you'll run out really quick. If you are taking in, but not pouring out, what will happen? You'll become stagnant. And it usually, in my experience, takes years before you get all that stagnant cleaned out, and maybe God will do another work and you do the same thing all over again. And I'm sure that you know people that have jumped from church to church to church to church 20, 30 times. They always start out real, oh, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And very, very quickly, they're like, this is same old, and they're down the road. So you need to be a Sea of Galilee, not a Dead Sea. Look at 2 Timothy 2:2. 2 Timothy 2:2. I'm going to give you two verses, 2 Timothy 2:2 and 2 Kingothy 2:2. I said it
Second.
that way so you remember it.
Second what?
Kingothy,
Second King.
2 Kings 2:2.
Thing.
What is 2 Timothy 2:2?
And the things that you have heard from me among many witnesses, commit these to faithful men who will be able to teach others also.
So I'm going to ask you a question. Who is the faithful people that you are helping to grow by pouring truth into them? Often we say, oh, I want to serve God. I want a ministry. 100 years ago, a little less, 70 years ago, a man named Dawson Troutman was asked by a mission group to interview missionaries as the last step for them going on the mission field. They had finished their schooling, their training, they had raised their money, they were ready to get in a boat and sail to a foreign country. And he would ask them a whole bunch of questions. The interview that he held with each of these individuals was probably 2 hours. A lot of things they talked about. But one question he would always ask them, he would say, have you personally led a person to Christ who is living for Jesus today? Can you give me their name? Do you know what he found? This was not in the terrible 2020s, but this was back in the 1950s when the church was not nearly as backslidden as it is today. Do you know what he found?
Many of them did.
Not one single person that was ready to go on the mission field to supposedly represent Christ to a foreign country could point to one single person, not one of these missionaries, one single person that they led to Christ here in America, in their own hometown, in their own home area.
I have a question. So, if they led someone to Christ and things were going well, and for several weeks they were following Jesus and doing it with the right stuff, and then, like, let's say years later, they're just not following him, is that his fault?
Not necessarily, but what should that mean? Let's go in the natural. If you are a couple, a married couple, what is one of the things that you are probably trying to do?
Have kids?
Have kids and raise a family. What do you want as the most fundamental thing about those children?
They're healthy.
That they would grow up
In the Lord.
and live and be saved, but even that they would live and grow up, and what would happen if you had a child who was stillborn? Kathy and I had a child who was a miscarriage. What would you say about that situation? Or if you had a child who died very young, a few months old,
Yeah.
what would you say in that situation?
Say
Oh.
God's grace.
Would you say that's it? We've had a child, that's all? Or would you say, no, I wanna try again?
I think it depends.
But the bottom line is the goal is to have a living child, right? So spiritually, it's the same thing. Paul says, what does Paul say in 2 Timothy 2:2 is the qualification for what he is looking for? What term does he give?
Faithful men.
Faithful, or as the NIV translates it,
Reliable.
reliable. So it's not just anyone, it is a reliable person. How does he define a reliable person? Someone who in turn has another generation. Horses and donkeys are close enough genetically to breed together. What do they produce?
Jackass.
A mule.
That is a donkey.
No, a mule. What is the characteristic of a mule? Almost every mule, there are a few exceptions, but almost every mule is born sterile. They cannot have children. There are a very few exceptions, and most of the exceptions are male, not female. God doesn't want to have people who do not reproduce. God wants his family to reproduce. So he says, here's the thing, and notice with me before we go to 2 Timothy, look at what John says over in 2 John, maybe it's 3 John. Now,
They're so quick.
2 John verse 4.
Give me great joy to find some of you children walking in the truth, just as the Father commanded. And now, dear,
So what does he say brought joy in his Christian life? John's an old man now. He's in his 90s probably.
children walking in truth.
Finding children. Now, who is he writing to? Who is he writing to?
The church.
True, but be more specific.
Elect.
People that he has taught.
Yes, he's writing to the people who were under his
Tutelage.
tutelage. So he's writing to people who are spiritually his children. And he's writing to them about what?
Their children.
Their children. What does that make them? His grandchildren or great grandchildren, or maybe great great grandchildren. And what does he say brought him joy?
See them walking in the faith.
To see that his spiritual grandchildren or great grandchildren, or maybe a generation or two beyond, are walking in the truth. So a lot of people go, I was so excited, but my life is becoming stale. I'm just not enjoying it. Almost every person that I've ever found that their spiritual life becomes stale cannot point to spiritual children and grandchildren that are renewing their excitement as they work with people who they have led to Christ, who are leading other people to Christ. Now here's the other side of that. 2 Timothy 2:2. What's 2 Kings 2:2 say?
Elijah said to Elisha, stay here, the Lord sent me to Bethel.
And verse 3.
But Elisha said, as surely as the Lord lives, as you live, I will not leave you. So they went down to Bethel.
What's the other side of that equation? What are we talking about here? What are we talking about here?
Following.
Who was
Disciples.
Elisha and who was Elijah?
He was a current prophet. And
A prophet?
Yeah.
They were prophets, but let's
Elisha was his
They've been chosen.
what was the relationship between them?
teacher, student.
Mentor, mentee, or spiritually, father, son, the same thing that Paul had with Timothy. And what was Elisha's response to Elijah? I'm sticking with you to the end. And he did, and what happened?
He got his mantle.
He got his mantle and he carried on and finished Elijah's ministry. So here is the question you need to,
Well, he knew at any time Elijah was leaving,
yeah,
so he wouldn't leave him.
right,
He
yep,
wanted to be there.
Did Elijah know he was going to be taken up there?
Yeah.
yes, yep. Here's the three questions that you should be asking yourself. Who is your Paul? Who's the person that right now is pouring into you spiritual truth? Who's the person who's mentoring you? The second question is, who is your
Timothy.
Timothy? Who's the person that you are pouring into? Who's the person that you're have access to that you can bring them along? And the third question is, who are the reliable people that Timothy is in turn pouring into for a third generation? And if you want to be consistent in having a long-term, excited, on fire, any of those terms you want to use, Christian life, that needs to be a propelling question. Because if you don't have people you're pouring into, let's go back to the book of First Maps. That was a joke from the navigators. What if you don't have anything you're pouring into? If it's all coming into you and not going out to anyone, what?
You're getting stagnant.
You're the Dead Sea. And sooner or later, it's going to be filled, and then it's going to start to go stagnant. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to give you a real practical thing from 50 years. If you want to do that, I am going to suggest that here's what you do. That you make a list of 10 people that you know that you don't know their spiritual state. Not guarantee they're unsaved, not a guarantee that they are saved. You don't know their spiritual state. 10 names. I didn't pick that number out of random. Why 10? So that means finding ways to meet new people. Why 10?
Because anymore it'd be too complicated.
Because if it goes above 10, you're not going to have enough time to do anything. We're busy people, right? We have limited hours in every day. How many disciples did Jesus have?
Hundreds.
12.
No.
12. That he said, I'm going to commit to you guys. 12. Not 1,200, not even 50. Because even Jesus, who was perfect, couldn't handle in this life more than 12 of those kind of relationships. Out of those 10, what are you going to do for every one of those 10 people?
Out into them.
You're going to start, number one, with praying for opportunities to pour into them. Because opportunities don't always come your way, do they? But God can engineer opportunities. So you're going to pray for all those 10. But what are you going to look for out of those 10? And it's almost never, I've never known anyone that all those 10 qualify for this. What are you going to look for in that?
Timothy's.
Proof.
For interest.
People who show interest.
Out of 10, somebody's got to show some kind of.
Usually, if you're praying seriously over them, you're going to get between, hopefully you get 3 that show some interest.
Out of 10?
Out of 10. If you can get 3 out of 10, you're doing good. That show interest. Now, where are you going to spend the lion's share of your time?
The 2 or 3.
With those 2 or 3. From those two or three, what is your goal? And it's important that you have more than one. What is your goal for those two or three? That you get
One saved.
one who qualifies for 2 Timothy 2:2, who is a reliable person, who shows not just interest, but wants to really learn so that they can pass it on to somebody else. There you go from 10, hopefully to 3, down to 1. And Dawson Troutman said, here are people. And he interviewed, I forget how many it was, but it was dozens of missionaries. Not one of those missionaries could point to one person, and they're going to travel around the world. Now, if I go to a foreign country, do people trust me more or less?
Less.
Am I able to communicate better to a person in a foreign country than I am to the people here?
No.
Why?
Because they don't know you.
They don't know me, but why else?
Language.
Language problems. Unless they speak Americanized English, I'm going to be speaking in a different language. Does that create problems?
Yes.
Even if we speak, if I go to an English speaking nation, what other problems are there?
Culture.
Culture. I didn't grow up in their culture. They didn't grow up in my culture. We can talk about things we all have in common, just being Americans. That may not be true with somebody that grew up in South Africa.
Or even just reading the Bible and not even your own culture, they won't relate to the stuff that's in the Bible.
So,
That guy with he brought back the person in the drive-through. He was like,
Yeah.
spooked. He was like, oh my gosh.
yeah,
Drive-through.
Steve, wasn't it, Fleming? Which one of the one that it was that brought back, the guy from the Alka tribe? And he drives into this fast food place. And when they go back to the tribe in South America, he goes, they had these food houses. And you just drove up and they threw food through the window at you. He goes, well, I did have to pay for it. He goes, no, you didn't. He goes, yeah, I gave him my credit card. He goes, yeah, but they gave it right back to you. It was say, yeah.
I knew Fleming didn't sound right.
Well, there was the 5 of them, but it was Saint. Yeah, Nate Saint. Roger Udare and Pete Fleming. And
I thought it was a supermarket.
That's such a shame we don't remember all of them.
Yeah.
All Pete,
yeah,
you know?
it's the one that I always forget other than,
Well, even with that being said, you go somewhere like India, because we've had friends from there. And you have to get past all they celebrate so many festivals.
yeah,
Like, and they're all spiritual related. And none of them have to do with God, the real God, so it's like,
yep.
every little thing they do, like they spray this color stuff.
But,
Yeah.
but here's my point with that. We think that if we can get into an official ministry, it'll be so much easier to impact people for Christ. But ultimately, where we need to be rubber hitting the road is we need to be in personal ministry with the people around us. People who, if
Cully.
Cully,
It's a shame to always forget.
yeah, Ed Cully,
McCully.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I hate that I can never remember.
Yeah,
Where were they from?
they were the Alka
Jim
Five.
Elliott.
Jim Elliott, they were part of the
Oh,
5 that were killed.
Yeah, and it's such a shame. We always
Yeah.
forget one.
Let me do this differently. I know this has kind of been, but how many people are there on Earth right now?
7 billion.
Going for 9, it's over 8. We've crossed 8. When I came here, how many were there? 6 billion. So in the last 30 years, we've gone from 6 billion humans to 8 billion humans. And we're gonna cross 9 in 4 or 5 years. How did that happen?
China.
Did that happen because there were 8 million women who had 1,000 children apiece? Or were there 8,000 couples that had 1 million babies apiece? That happened because families had 1, 2, or 3, or 4, or 5, or 6 children.
Well, that one guy in Bridgeton certainly helped.
Yeah.
They should.
Well, the one woman, because there was a
Well,
bunch of different,
sure,
yeah,
sure.
And Muslims, they got multiple wives.
Yeah.
That's why they're the fastest growing religion,
yeah.
not by convert.
The last I heard, the world record for a single couple to have children was 64.
At that point, they're walking out feeding themselves.
Aren't there women that have 8 kids at once?
Now, she never had a single birth.
Oh,
Between every birth was between 2 and 4.
Oh, their stomachs.
Quadruplets, triplets, or
And we
Your
have the
stomach, their stomach looks like yours.
friends, so the mom is my age and she's going her 7th year.
yeah.
And she's never had multiple births.
They literally had a school bus for their family car. But that,
The minivan usually cuts it.
Yeah.
It holds like 8 passengers, I think.
so it's happened because of 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 children each. Our job isn't to lead 1,000 people to Christ. It's to lead 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. And if we were to do that, we would change the world for Christ. As long as what?
Remain in the faith.
And as long as they have children. If they don't have children, what's the total number of grandchildren?
Talk about spiritual children.
Spiritually.
right. So physically, no one else has kids anymore right now. We're all dead and
Yep. 8 billion people on Earth. If people stop having children today, how many people will be on Earth in 130 years?
None.
no.
No, we lost the
Zero.
generation of people just with abortions.
Yeah, 0.
Generation.
So
I think you're right. Every 100 abortions, only 19 children are actually born.
And that's not counting people who actually want to have kids but don't
Yep.
because of medical reasons.
yeah. One last thing. What does it take to have children? Let's talk about physically. Let's
Two
talk
people.
in the physical.
It takes
What
2
does it
people.
take to
Man
have
and a woman.
children?
A man and a woman?
Number one, it takes intimacy. Without intimacy, there are no children, correct? Look at John 15. Gospel of John, chapter 15.
You said John 15.
Yep. Verses 5 to 8. John 15, verses 5 to 8.
I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. If you do not remain in me, you are like a branch that is thrown away and withers. Such branches are picked up, thrown into the fire and burned.
7.
Oh, if you remain in me and my word remains in you, ask whatever you wish and it will be done for you. This is my Father's glory, that you bear much fruit, showing yourselves to be my disciples.
What Jesus said in this.
Yeah.
Jesus says the way to have spiritual fruit is by intimacy with him. We have to be intimate with him. And he says, then you'll bear fruit. Is that internal spiritual? I've heard people say, well, that's just internal spiritual fruit. That's not talking about leading people to Christ. Look at verse 16. What's verse 16 say?
You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you so that you might go and bear fruit.
What are we to do? Not just bear fruit.
Go.
Go and bear fruit. Do I have to go anywhere to produce internal spiritual fruit, the fruit of the Spirit?
No.
Where can I produce the fruit of the Spirit?
In the middle of nowhere.
Right here, over there, anywhere, right? I don't have to go 2 inches to produce spiritual fruit, correct? The fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, long suffering. I can do that right here, right? But Jesus said the fruit I'm talking about here is fruit that you go. What is the fruit that you go for? Go therefore and make disciples. So the fruit he's talking about in John 15 is making disciples.
No,
Now, let me get this in, because we can. There are 2 things that will stop you from reproducing, even if there is intimacy. What are the 2 things that will stop you from reproducing? Let's go to the physical before you think about the spiritual. What is the first thing that will stop you from having children?
A physical disorder.
Immaturity. Can a 5-year-old have a child?
No.
No. The first thing that will stop people from reproducing spiritually is immaturity, remaining a spiritual infant. A 1-year-old cannot have a child, period. So what's going to happen if you're going to grow, is if you're going to reproduce spiritually, you need to grow up. You can't remain a spiritual infant and reproduce. That's all that stuff in Hebrews 5 and 6 talking about that. What's the second thing? And Paul mentioned it.
A physical disorder.
Some kind of physical issue. An illness. Or other kind of physical impediment. What is the physical impediment? Once you have overcome immaturity and you are actually becoming spiritually mature, what is the spiritual impediment? In the physical, there's all kinds of things. But what is the spiritual impediment that keeps us from reproducing spiritually?
Sin.
What is it?
Sin.
Sin. Sin. Sin is the disease that keeps us sterile spiritually. Is fear a sin? It can be.
you know, can I say something?
But is it the only sin? I'm sorry.
No, so-
But is it the only sin? There's many sins. And all of them can make us spiritually unable to reproduce. Go ahead, Nick.
Monday nights, we have a bunch of guys that really are fluent in the word. And, you know, when it's coming time for my operation, I sent a message to one guy and I asked him, I'm gonna need you to step up. Over and over, I tell them, you go, oh, everybody has a story. Every one of them stories can change somebody's life. And that's what we go to these meetings for. It's not, we're already conquering the part of addiction that was struck some of us anyway. And we're struggling with, but we have a story to where somebody's gonna have to take my place eventually one of these times, and so on and so on. And we gotta keep building up people and giving them encouragement. And Dave Goodwin took up 5 weeks of my meeting. And what a blessing it was. But they was, my coach, I would have been my second guy to ask if Dave didn't do it, but it was just amazing that I never had to worry about the meeting going out. So, you know, people are trying to seek what they need to do to find the Lord. And there's some hard people that just remain where they are because they just have self-pity, they have all kinds of stuff that separates them from growing with Christ. But I'd say 80% of everybody, the other people in my room, that have a lot of knowledge as far as the word of God. And I'm glad of that. I'm very, very encouraged because they're striving to do, and they're always talking to somebody else.
Yeah.
You know, remember the number 1 goes 2, 2 gets 4, 4 gets 8,
Yep.
8, and goes right up the road. And that's what you taught me 20 years ago. And I'm so blessed that this is happening in my meeting. And
Amen.
I'm just so encouraged by it.
So
Oh, was that your question?
But there was no question.
Oh,
it was,
okay.
It was a comment.
Oh,
who was the most successful mass evangelist in human history?
Billy Graham.
Billy Graham, by a wide margin. How many people did Billy Graham, let's take the numbers and not parse them. How many people did Billy Graham lead to Christ, quote unquote?
Millions. Maybe. I
No,
think.
uh-uh,
He went all over the world.
he did. And it wasn't millions,
Thousands.
Yeah, television.
even with the television. You would go to a crusade. How many crusades could Billy Graham put on a year?
300.
No. It took months of preparation. Billy Graham maybe put on, at the height, 8 or 10 crusades a year. And I'm not talking the long ones in the 50s that went, 80 days or 100 days like Madison Square Garden. But the modern ones went how long?
2 weeks.
No,
2 days.
3 days.
3 days, sometimes 4 days.
Because they have to pay for all the.
Well, because you've got to rent big stadiums.
Yeah.
And they just don't have that many days open. What sports season is it right now?
Oh,
Hockey,
No,
baseball,
it is the end of baseball,
It's all of them.
hockey.
middle of football, beginning of hockey, beginning of basketball, right?
This is the only month of the year where all 4 of them are going at the same time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but there's usually 3 going
And you got soccer.
Yeah.
and soccer.
Yeah.
And then,
There's a lot of soccer.
yeah, the soccer's growing even here.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you've got the Olympics coming up and, there just isn't that,
And concerts.
and concerts.
Tennis.
Yeah, so you can't get stadiums for weeks at a time anymore. So how many people would go forward in a Billy Graham crusade?
Hundreds.
Hundreds. you would see thousands going forward. Maybe 1,000 or 2,000 people going forward at a Billy Graham crusade. What were half of those people at least?
The-
Counselors
And the ushers.
and ushers and other people to try to prime the pumps and get people down there. So if you had 800 to 1,000 people come forward to the Billy Graham crusade, maybe on a rare occasion, 2,000. That was a really good one. So if you do 10 a year, 3 days, that's 30 days. Let's take the high number, 2,000. That's 10 times 3 is 30 times 2 is 60. That's 60,000 people a year.
What about all the television? 100 stations he got.
You mean the
Yeah,
people
and
at
you know how many of those people actually were people who came for? Very few.
They were probably as sincere as the ones who might.
Yep,
Because
but-
they actually considering it without all that.
maybe, yep.
Sure.
And let's say all of those were genuine converts. That would mean in the 50 years of Billy Graham's ministry, 50 times 30 is 1,500. That's 1,500,000 people in a lifetime. And he was by far the most successful person to ever do that. Does 1,500,000 people sounds like an awful lot of people. But is that an awful lot of people?
Over 50 years now.
What you said was a lot of people too, and he's all over the world.
Yeah,
He's all over the world, Michael, you said.
But in comparison to.
but compared to 8 billion people, that's not even a drop in a bucket.
And it's over 50 years.
And it's over 50 years.
So I guess that was a lot of people back then. Like how many people were around back then?
So, when he came on the scene, it was maybe 4 billion. It's more than double, maybe 3 billion. Yeah,
So
but his last one was 2000.
Oh, 2000.
Yeah,
Do they still do those?
2002, I think was his last one.
Does it, right?
Like, no, like-
Franklin Graham does,
Well, no, we went to,
what was it,
Shea
2000?
Stadium, that was 2000.
That was the last hurrah. That was after he'd been dormant for a long time.
It wasn't-
He came back to have that one last one.
There was a church, this is small time, but there was a church near Camden. And they would have a 2-week tent meeting, and I went to them. This is maybe about 20 years ago or something, but
Yeah, I've
they
gone to
had
him.
it up until then, it was right on like where Route 70 and 130 come in. That's where the.
On the other hand,
It's fine.
unless you're Nick. On the other hand, how many people would I have to lead to Christ personally if each of the people I led to Christ and they led to Christ led another person to Christ each year? How many people would I have to lead to Christ to reach every single person in the whole world?
One, what your question is confusing.
It's not really. You go to 1,000 times in 10 doublings. So if I go 2, 1 to 2, then 4, then 8, 10 of those doublings is 1,000. So if I start with 1,000, 10 doublings takes it to 1,000 times that, which is a million.
You're talking,
So in 20 people, that's 1,000,000.
he's talking binary.
If I take another 10 doublings, that takes what's 1,000 times 1,000,000?
I can't say.
Billion.
1 billion. So if I lead 30 people to Christ, now that's a far cry from 1.5 million, isn't it?
Lead that many, they could lead more than you did, so.
But all they've got to do is lead the same amount. and double. That's 1 billion. So in 30 years, I'd have led 1 billion people to Christ. The 31st year, 1 billion would become 2 billion. The 32nd year, 2 billion would become 4 billion. The 33rd year, 4 would become
8.
the entire population of the world in 33 years.
Yeah, that's the difference between addition and compound interest.
Yep,
Rule 77.
yep.
It's getting fuzzy.
So where the church should be focusing, where you should be focusing is not some abstract ministry but should be one person. One spiritual child who will lead someone else. And if that becomes our focus, we'll change the world. Jesus didn't spend the lion's share of his time trying to get thousands of converts. He spent the lion's share of his time making 12 disciples. Jesus didn't say, go out into the world and make thousands of converts. He said, go therefore and make disciples.
So the tree doesn't have to bear several fruit, it just has to bear one.
And John says, if you do that and you have grandchildren, they will be the thing that will make you so enjoy the Christian life. It'll be amazing.
I think when you lead someone to the Lord, and, you know, a lot of people says, are they saved or are they not saved? I think what shows me that they are is they have an enthusiasm for the word and to give it to someone else.
Yeah.
I went to somebody's 50th birthday party a few years back, and the guy said to me, you know, it was a surprise party for him, and his wife called me and said, come. And he said to me, he says, well, you're the guy who gave me the gospel. And I didn't even realize that I did. I didn't even remember it because I talked to a lot of people about it. Because that's how I got saved. He thought, don't you remember? And I said, no, I don't. And he reminded me and he told me, but you know, if you're talking, if you talk to a group of people and the guys around you don't talk about the Lord, they don't want to talk about the Lord. To me, it's a sign that they're probably not saved, don't you think?
Hey, can.
1 Peter 2:2. 1 Peter 2:2. Always comes back to the word. What's 1 Peter 2:2? Nope.
Yeah, it could go on my phone.
1 Peter 2:2.
Like newborn babies.
Like newborn babies, crave pure spiritual milk so that you may grow up in your salvation now that you have tasted that the Lord is good. What is the first sign that a baby is born alive?
Breathing.
They cry. What's the second sign that a baby is healthy and
Hungry.
yeah,
They eat.
they eat. And they don't eat once a month or once a week. How often do they eat? Yeah.
6 times a day.
And sometimes if they're like David, they nurse so slowly that they're hungry by the time they get done. And it's like they nurse every 3 hours, but it takes them 4 hours to nurse. Spiritually, what is the first sign that a person has truly been saved?
They have craving for spiritual things.
Spiritual hunger. And if a person is not spiritually hungry, you've got to say one of two things. What's the only reason why a baby would be born and not be hungry?
They're dead.
They're dead, they're newborn, they're stillborn, dead, or
They're full.
they're sick.
Oh,
Other than that, that baby's hungry and it's hungry again and it's hungry again and it's hungry again. The only babies that aren't that way are either dead or sick.
Boy.
Now, what if you have someone like, let's say, wait, coworker, or whatever, and they're not interested in the gospel? Do you just pray for them and then walk away? Like, you still have to work with them, you still whatever with them. I'm not saying you're close, intimate friends, but you can't, how far do you keep pushing
Testimony.
someone?
For somebody else.
Right.
A, you look for somebody else, but also you look for,
Sign.
what does the Bible say about Ephesians 5? What does it say? Don't be drunk with wine, but be filled with the Holy Spirit. And there's the verse in there that says what? Ephesians 5. I'll have to find it. Give me one sec. Don't be unwise, but wise.
Be very careful then how you live.
Verse 15, yeah.
That's wise, making the best of every opportunity.
What does it say? Making the best of.
Every opportunity.
So what do you need to do with a situation like that?
I put them on the prayer.
Pray for them, but also look for
An opportunity.
opportunities.
Who will always get somebody to.
Yep.
Service breeds obligation.
Service,
I think people have.
compassion, listening. Listening.
Always be ready to give an answer for the joy that's in you.
What does it take before you can give an answer?
You have to know it.
Nope.
We have to know
What
how
does
to
it
know
take
it.
before you can give an answer to? Mabel, say it louder.
Question from someone.
A question. You cannot answer until there is a question, right?
Right.
Yep.
What causes people to ask a question? How you've treated them. That's opportunity evangelism. I have done things that create a question that I can then answer. Why is it that so many people are ineffective in presenting the gospel? Because they never have the situation where they create people asking questions. Why do you treat me this way? Not in a bad way, but what makes you so different?
Why are you so nice?
Why are you so nice? Why are you this? Why are you that? How can you, everybody cheats. Why are you honest with the boss? Why don't everybody pads their account? Why aren't you doing that? Those are questions, right?
Yep.
And those are questions that raise the opportunity to give an answer for the hope that lies within us.
Can I share
Here's
an
the problem
experience?
with that. Here's the problem with that. It takes time and it takes
Patience.
and it takes
Prayer.
commitment
Oh.
to being consistent. Go ahead.
A place I used to work, you know how people are on Monday morning. Everybody's got the Monday morning blues. And I had walked into the break room and I always have a smile on my face. And a woman turned and looked at me and she said, "What are you so happy about on a Monday?" I said, "I got Jesus in me." And that was
There
all
you
she
go.
said.
Yeah. God bless. Have a great week. Hope this was helpful.
Thank you.
God bless. Good night, all.